What is solar project development? Well, basically, it's when a company has an idea of building a solar farm and they just turn that idea into a reality. Sounds pretty simple, right? Just building a solar farm. Unfortunately, there are a lot of steps and processes that make it a bit more difficult and a longer process than you might think. And I found that there aren't too many videos online of people explaining this process. So I thought I would give it a shot. And for anyone who's curious, in this video, I'm just going to give you kind of a top level view of what the project development process is like in the solar industry, at least. And so, yeah, anyway, let's get into it. There's basically four main steps. Number one is finding a plot of land. They call that site selection. You have to first find a good potential site. And that sounds, to me, that sounds pretty easy. There's tons of land, especially in America where I'm at. But you might find a perfect plot of land and it's 50 miles away from the closest power line. And that will impact the economic viability of your project. It takes energy to transport energy. And so in doing this, it might not be worth it to even build there. So that's number one, finding the perfect plot of land. Number two is the permitting process. There are a lot of permits you have to apply for and requirements you have to meet before you could start building. Depending on where you're building the solar farm, you might be dealing with NEPA or ESA, that's the National Environmental Policy Act, or the Endangered Species Act. You might find another perfect plot of land that's a mile away from a transmission line or a power line, but there's an endangered species there, so you can't build there. So that's number two. Once you get that through that step, the third step is the power purchase agreement, or PPA for short, and that's where you have to get with the utility company and you agree on a price to sell your power to the utility company. And of course, that will impact the financials of your project. And lastly, there is the interconnection process, and that is when you get with the utility company again and they switch, they flick a switch and you get connected to the grid. That sounds pretty easy too, right? And no, unfortunately not. There are a lot of studies. For instance, there is a system impact study, there's a feasibility study that needs to be done, and that takes a lot of time. Basically these utility companies aren't just going to take your word for it, like, yeah, everything's okay. They're going to check the engineering and check to make sure everything's okay before they connect you to the grid. But once you get through that, then you are then you're done. And yeah, I'm going to make 2 to 3 minute videos explaining even more into detail of each one of those four steps that I just listed for anyone who's curious. And if there's any professional solar project developers watching this, feel free to comment on anything that is important or anything that I missed, and we could talk about that. So, yeah.